Hi Bookends! Welcome to this week's 10-minute book review. I'm 10. This week we're going to be reviewing Contagion by Teri Terry. Full disclosure, this book was provided to us for free. This is an art copy. It was given to us at Book Expo 2018 in exchange for an open and honest review, and this book was released publicly in the US July the 9th. So jumping right on in, what we like to do is give a star point for each book, as in out of 10 stars, how many stars would this book garner, and also a rating, as in if this was a movie or a TV show, what would we rate it. Out of 10 stars, this book garnered a 7. It was good. There are certain things that could have made it great. We're going to go into that. As a rating, this book would definitely be rated PG. Not due to the actual verbiage or words that are being said, but the actual content that is being explained or shown. So the main player is Sharona. She prefers to be called Shay because everyone associates her name Sharona with the song My Sharona, who her mother actually named her after. Now, funny story, right? Or just funny thing about history. My Sharona, I believe, came out like in the 80s, and this girl's like 16. So, bruh, how old is your mom? You know, because if she's supposed to be 16, that means that she would have been born, like it's 2018, so she would have been born in the 2000s. So, like, how did your mom name you? Anyway, so just moving right along. Her name is Shay. Well, she prefers to be called Shay. She is actually English, like she's from England, but her mother is from Scotland. So what happened was, before she was born, her mother moved to Scotland. Then her great aunt, who is her mother's regular aunt, passed away and gifted her the home of, well, her home on a loch in Scotland. So they go there. She's a teenager living there. She's, you know, taking in the scenery and stuff. And she sees this little girl just wandering by herself and, you know, in the woods. And she's like, "Ugh, bro, you shouldn't be here. Like, these woods don't lead to anywhere. The path ends." And the girl's like, "I'm cool. I'm all right. Thanks, though." And then a man in a car comes and gets the little girl. Shay thought it was a bit odd, but she's like, "Okay, well, whatever. Mom and me are going on vacation. I'm sorry if I look a little bit sweaty. I turned off the air conditioner, turned off the fan because it makes that whoosh or buzz noise, and it's not very appealing during a video. So, yeah. I have my African fan with me. So. Okay, so anyway. We also meet a subject by the name of 369X. We find out later is the little girl Callie, who Shay met in the forest. So it turns out that Callie was kidnapped by, we don't really know who. That's the interesting thing. We don't know if it's like, we don't know who did this. We just know that they're bad. But they kidnap her, and along with a lot of other people, at least 400 people, because she was subject 369X, so at least 400 other people, because she said there's more people there ahead of her and behind her. So they infect her on purpose with a disease. She survives the disease, and then they say, "We're going to cure you," right? And the way they cure her is strapping her down to a chair, putting her in a room, and incinerating her body. When they do this, her body turns to ash, but her consciousness remains. And she believes that she's a ghost, but it turns out she's not, because of course she can't pass through walls. You know, a spirit can't be held in a room, but, you know, she can't pass through walls. So she's definitely, whatever she is, she's definitely still amongst the living. Callie, so Callie ends up finding out, like, oh my god, there's other people here who are being, like, tortured and stuff. The interesting thing is, though, she is the only person in this underground facility who was incinerated and still maintained some part of herself. But nobody else knows. No one can hear her, no one can see her. we fast forward back to Shay, right? Because this book is told under 2 different narratives. Callie, who's like 12, Shay, who's like 16. So Shay is starting, I believe, her junior year of high school, and there's this kid named Duncan who's like always bullying her. This is something that brought it down from a 10 for me to a 7. This kid Duncan is always bullying her. In fact, there's 2 times in the book where it looks like he's pretty close to trying to rape her or sexually assault her in some way. And she still travels by herself. She still doesn't look twice where she's going. She doesn't tell the police or a principal or her mom. Like, you know, she doesn't really let anybody know that this dude and his friends are basically out to try to sexually assault me in some way. Later on, she sees a picture of the girl Callie in a newspaper, I believe, and she's considered a missing person. Now, the thing about Shay is she has a photographic memory. So if she's paying attention, she can remember anything, right? So she remembers the girl in detail, that this is the girl that was missing. So she calls the phone number in the ad, and a man by the name, or a man by the name of Kai answers. Kai comes down to where she is. So I guess Kai was in Scotland already. And so he comes down to where Shay is, and Shay takes him to where she saw his sister a year ago. Okay. She thinks that Kai is cute, which I can understand because it's not her sister who's missing, right? And she's a whole year removed from the actions that took place. So she finds Kai cute, and I can definitely understand that. Kai kind of finds her attractive as well as the book goes on. Like, he shows he has a crush on her and he really likes her. But I think his attraction to her is born more out of last man, last woman on earth kind of a thing. You know, I just need somebody. Like, I just need somebody who's not related to me for me to be able to lean on, and those type of feelings start to turn into romantic ones. At least that's how I feel anyway. Moving back to Callie, because remember it goes back and forth. She, as she moves around the facility that she's trapped in underground, like there's like hundreds of doctors and nurses, staff, security, chefs. Like, this place is like a fully stocked underground hospital. The people inside the hospital, like the doctors and nurses and stuff, they start getting infected with the same disease that they created to infect other people with. And like pandemonium just straight breaks out. And everybody's like, where's Dr. One? Where's Dr. One? And Callie's like, yeah, I want to know who Dr. One is too. So basically Dr. One is the doctor who's in charge of everything. He doesn't come there often, but when he does, everybody like just stops. But Callie never saw his face because he always had on like a hazmat suit. And things just go flip dipping crazy. Like, there's a fire that breaks out. People start shooting each other. Basically nobody makes it out. Well, 3 people make it out of there. Aside from Callie. But of course, like, once again, she can't get through walls. So she has to squeeze through cracks and stuff like that. And she gets out. She finds out that the whole facility is housed beneath a barn. Who knew, right? So because of everything going haywire down there, it starts like this huge fire. And this huge fire just starts burning up Shetland Island. So I am not familiar with Scotland, even though I have read Outlander. Okay, so just to let you see what it kind of looks like. Okay, so they put a little map in here for people who are like me, not familiar with Ireland. So this is where Callie was being held. And then this is where Shay is, like in this area. So Callie gets out and she finds like a guy in the road, and people can only see her when they're about to die. Right? People who have been infected can only see her when they're about to die. And there's a reason for that. We'll get to it. This isn't a spoiler review, but we'll get to it. And she asks him where Dr. One is. And he's like, up on the hill in a White House. Can't miss it. So she goes up there, and of course there's no Dr. One in there. So the island is being evacuated because the whole Flip Dippin' Island is basically burning. It's basically like weird, like how can a whole island get set on fire from one fire? And to answer that, go visit California whenever there is a drought. You would not believe how much you can catch fire. Also, I believe there was a really bad fire in America a long time ago just because a cow knocked over a lantern. Or at least that's the story anyway. So yeah, and people are being evacuated. It's horrible. And Shay finds out that she has an uncle who lives on the island. Her mom is like flipping out, but they find out her uncle gets out safely. What they don't know is that one of the people who was infected from down in that place got off the island too. And he's on the boat with other survivors, and he's like dying. So he's spreading his virusy self to everyone. So yeah, basically the virus just starts taking over Scotland. Like, if you live in Scotland, you hit. And the odd thing is, the people who survive, like they said 95% of the people who catch the virus die. And the other 5% go missing. So it's like, where are they all going? So of course, Shay catches the virus, right? Oh, fun fact I forgot to mention. Callie goes looking for her family, and she finds her family, and there's just certain parts of her memory that's missing. But she remembers how much her brother loved her and her mom, you know. So she goes to find her family, and she follows them around. Now, to the person reading this, it's very obvious that wherever Callie goes, the virus goes too. So in my mind, I'm thinking Callie is the one who's actually spreading the virus around everywhere. But yeah, we don't really know. The book doesn't really answer, but I believe that it is her. Not on purpose, just because. So yeah, Shay ends up getting the disease, and her mother, I guess, doesn't want her to go into quarantine because it's like people are disappearing. So her mother takes her away into the like forest kind of, and her mother gets the disease too. Now here's the thing. While Shay is out here like basically in super hyper pain, and her mother's in super hyper pain next to her, they're able to swap memories. Like when I say swap, I think, like, you know how we're talking right now? It's like if I was quiet and I was talking to you in your head and you were talking back to me in my head. And they're able to do that. Now, at first Shay thinks this is like just some kind of feverish like just something weird from being sick. But it turns out like it's really happening. Shay ends up surviving. Her mother ends up dying. And when Shay survives, she finds out that she has these interesting powers where she can basically hear someone's thoughts, put her thoughts into someone else's mind, make them do what she wants them to. And Callie, her name is Callista, but she prefers to be called Callie. Callie starts talking to her, and she's like, yeah, I was like you before they burnt me alive. Now I'm just like this. And Shay can see her. It's clear as day, but nobody else can. So the explanation for this is Shay, well, through Shay, I should say, we find out about atoms and DNA, and basically we're nothing but atoms constructed to look in the way that we are. And if our atoms are taken apart and put back together, we could look like something else, or deconstruct it and reconstruct it in a different format. We could be a different entity entirely. So apparently what this disease is doing is it's getting to people on the atomic level of their body. Like it's destroying them at the atomic level of their body in an attempt to reconstruct them, and most people die. Callie survived but was burned alive, and so that part of her atomic structure was reset, if you want to say, or redone. And so she's still a living entity. She's still alive. She's not a spirit. She's still very much sentient, but atomically she's been set up differently. She's almost wispy, like air or gas. Meanwhile, because Shay was never set on fire by crazy lunatics underground, she still has her body, but her atoms have still been made over in a way that she's now able to project her thoughts into other people, as well as remove their thoughts or get their thoughts as well. And she's also able to share kinship with Callie for some reason. So yeah, that's crazy, right? Also interesting too, Shay shows off her photographic memory. So there's a part in the book where she's trying to tell a detective that, yeah, I saw this little girl, because Kai wants her to tell the detective this. He's like, if they hear this from you, they'll reopen my little sister's case, they'll go looking for her. So she's like, yeah, with photographic memory. And the detective is like, yeah, bro, whatever. And rightfully so. She's like 16, you know. 16-year-old girl sitting next to a cute guy who says, I need your help. Yes, of course I have a photographic memory. Why wouldn't I? What's your number? I'll remember it. So yeah, the police officer doesn't believe her. So what she does is she walks over to a waitress in the diner and asks the waitress for a book that she's reading. And it's none other than 50 Shades of Grey, which is so appropriate for a teenager. So she asks him to turn to any page in the book and then hand it back to her. He does. And she gets a good look at it for a few moments and then hands it back to him. And she says word for word, verbatim, each word on that page. And she's like, it's getting really 50 Shades of Grey. And he's like, you know what, that's okay. You can stop now. You can stop now. So they believe her. So it's kind of like Callie is a low-key genius. Not Callie, I'm sorry. Callie's not a low-key genius. Callie is just moderately above average, which is still good. But Shay is like a low-key genius, and Shay and Callie share something else, which I cannot share with you because that would be a spoiler, and that's no good. So some of the things that took this book down from a 10, I don't want to say this is insta-love because it's not really insta-love. It just, to me, it doesn't make any sense. So Kai is separated from his mother, right? And Shay's mother just died, right? And I understand the world is like falling to pot in front of them. Somehow or another they find the time to make out, to just like kiss and stuff. It didn't make it. You know, I think because I hold a lot of books to the standard of Hunger Games, where it's like it actually showed like, we don't have time for this. Like, the world's ending. We don't have time to fall in love. You know, I guess I'm kind of used to holding books to that kind of a standard. You know, just realizing the emergency of the moment that they're in, or the urgency of the moment that they're in. That is unfortunately not something that was felt entirely. It was felt throughout the book, but every time they had like a kissing scene, which was not graphic, right? It wasn't sexually charged. It was not graphic. But every time they had a kissing scene or something, it just seemed to take away from the seriousness of the moment that they were in. Something else that kind of took away from it being a 10 instead of a 7. The chapters are really short, which is good and bad. Like, there are some chapters that are only a page long, which is, you know, in some ways good, but also you switch perspectives so much. Like, no matter if you like a book or not, if it has multiple perspectives, you're going to find one perspective that you like more than the other. And so because the chapters are so short, sometimes you find yourself skipping over certain things. Also, some parts stall. So it's a pretty hefty book. It's 462 pages. Mind you, this is the ARC, so of course things could have changed. But yep, it's a pretty hefty read. It's not horrible though. It's just because the perspective or point of view changes so often. And one way it's good because you don't get bored. Another way it's bad because it's like, okay, wait, I didn't get to finish reading her thought. Wait, what? What happened? Yeah. So overall, it's not a bad book. I highly recommend it. If you like YA that makes you think and does not contain any magic, which, you know, basically is a science fiction type read, which I love. I love science fiction and I love YA. I'm definitely checking in for the second book, which should be out in October, I believe it is. Actually has a, has a little legend in the front. So Deception comes on October 19, so of course we're going to be checking in for that. And then Evolution starts in summer of 2020. So 3 months in the summer. It could be anytime during that time. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Bye, Bookends.